Alright everyone, welcome back to another video. Hope you guys enjoyed the last one that we had on some of the ground BR tips. This video is going to be very similar in regards to we're still going over BR tips, battle rating tips for those who don't speak English, but we're going to be going over them in air. I was going to do one on naval too, but I really don't even know enough about naval. I play it sometimes, but I don't know enough about it, so I think I'm just going to do one for ground and then one for air. Maybe later, down the line I do one for naval, but right now we're just going to go over air and ground. We're going to go over some BR tips and things I think you need to consider and make sure that you can avoid or keep in the back of your head when you're trying to make a lineup, so that way you have the best chance of not only winning but enjoying the game, even though I know that's impossible. But I'm gonna give you some tips and tricks and hopefully help you guys out a little bit, and maybe you guys have some stuff you can drop in the comments to help some other folks. So without further ado, let's get into a video. Let's go. Thank you guys for 1,000 views in the last video. I love y'all. Alright, we're gonna keep the same format that we had last time. I'm just gonna have some gameplay in the background. Probably not that good either. I don't play air, so I'm gonna die a lot in these. So don't really pay attention to what I'm saying. Just kind of have this on your other screen or in the background so you can just listen. Don't really watch the gameplay. I just had to put something there. But the first thing we're gonna go over is going to be that you need to pay attention to different battle rating, either, upgrades or downgrades. And what I mean by that is again, always pay attention to dev blogs or other streamers or content creators that are talking about different BR changes, because you may have a plane that you love that is great, and then all of a sudden they either put the BR higher. I don't really know in what reason it going down would be a bad thing, but maybe you don't want to go down for whatever reason, I don't know. But you always have to pay attention to these things, because there's not a single vehicle in the game that is hard locked at its BR. Now maybe there are vehicles where people are like, well, if it goes up it can't do anything, if it goes down it can't do anything, or whatever, but that doesn't mean that it is never going to change, because there's always room for something to happen. It can either go up or go down or stay the same BR. You never know. So always make sure you're paying attention to the vehicles that you enjoy, because you may love this thing now and then the next update they're like, boom, now it sucks. It went up a whole BR. GG's. Now the second point is going to be that battle ratings affect ground and naval game modes too. So you have to pay attention to the plane battle rating. I did discuss this in the ground video as well. So if you pay attention, I'm going to show it on screen here. When you're looking at plane battle ratings, it'll have an icon for naval and for ground. That way it'll show you what the battle rating is for that vehicle in that mode. So whatever mode you have selected, say if you're playing ground at the time, it'll have it shown what the air rating is and the ground rating is, or the naval one, excuse me. So whatever mode that you have selected, like if you're again in ground, it'll automatically have the BR shown for what ground is. If you have it for air, it'll automatically show air. So whatever modes you're not in, it'll have icons next to them to display what it is. So that way, no matter if you're having, ground, air, naval selected, you can always know what the other BRs are, because sometimes the battle rating is higher, sometimes it's lower. So always pay attention to that, because you may not be able to play this BR in air, because it's too high. Alpha jet. That thing is really high in air, but in ground, it's not that high. So just be very attentive to that, because some planes suck in air because the rating is, too high, but in ground, it's at a decent BR, so you can actually do something with it. So make sure to pay attention to the ground and naval things. If you do play naval, I don't know anyone that really does, except for me sometimes, but just make sure to pay attention to that, because again, it can change depending on the mode you're playing, what the BR is for said vehicle. Now, the third tip is that their air arcade and air realistic battle ratings are different. Just like how we talked in the last one, how it's different for air, ground, and naval, it's the same thing for realistic, that if you're playing a certain plane in air RB, if you switch to air arcade, it can completely change the battle rating of the vehicle. So this is mainly for people that play air arcade. I would say more people probably don't play that compared to realistic, but I could be wrong. I mean, I don't really play. I used to play a lot of air arcade, but I don't really play too much anymore. But you do need to be careful, because there's certain lineups that I have that are specifically for air arcade, in case someone requested on stream, that if I change it to realistic, now I can't play it because the BR is different. It doesn't really matter too much when you're going from one or the other mode, because if you have a lineup for realistic, usually, I mean, you can only play one vehicle in realistic anyways. So if you have like a crew slot, like a whole lineup, you know what I mean, that's just for a bunch of different planes, I highly doubt they're all the same BR. So if you try to switch into air arcade, you'd have to switch stuff up anyways. But you do need to be careful if you go back and forth between air arcade and air realistic. There's certain planes may not be the same BR, so you may be forced to switch up your lineup to get vehicles that are the same BR. That way you're not playing with a huge gap in your lineups. Now, the fourth tip is that you need to pay attention to the repair costs of the vehicles. Normally, as you go up, I would say the repair costs increase. So that's just something that you have to pay attention to really across all vehicles, but a lot in air, because there are some vehicles that cost a pretty penny to fly. So you need to make sure that if you're gonna play the vehicle, even if you do well, pay attention to how much SL it's gonna cost for you to fly it and to repair it, because it can cost a lot of money to repair some of these bad boys. So make sure if you're gonna play them, you either have expendable SL or you just don't even care about losing SL, because I have seen some people's accounts go into the negative. So make sure that you're paying attention. There is also rearm cost, but mainly the repair cost is what gets you. So you have to make sure you're not playing to where you're in debt. Usually that's what happens with me, but I play ground so much it doesn't matter if I lose SL. But for people that are not so good at air, you need to pay attention if you don't have a lot of SL, because you can bleed through it really quickly just from paying to repair your plane. So that's something that you have to keep in the back of your mind as well. Now, the fifth tip is that don't rush through your tech trees in regards to air. I mean, this goes for all of them too, but do not rush through to get to the top tier. Be careful, go slow, make sure you're not jumping around too fast, because there's so many different overall match styles in regards to props, like the earlier props, once you get like the mid-tier props, once you get to the early jets, once you get to the more modern jets, they all have different play styles. They all have different things like radar missiles, IR missiles, all aspect missiles. You need to just be very careful and not rush through anything, because you're gonna think that, oh, I unlocked this new plane, now I get to play it. You can play it, but if you, for example, buy a top tier jet and you have never played even an early jet, you are going to get milli rocked as soon as you get into that match. I'm not even gonna go into the radar types. That's a whole different can of beans, can of worms, can of cans. It's a whole different ball game. I myself am still learning the radar types, and that's not even talking about the missile types. So there's so many things, even countermeasures. I could go on forever about this. There are so many different things that you do not need to rush, because it will take time to learn. So it's better to go slow and steady. That way you can learn the lower BRs, and then when you're ready, hopefully you have a friend or something that can help. That's what I had to do. I asked chat all the time to help me, or I get someone to join my game to teach me, because there are different play styles. Again, once you go from props to early jets to modern jets, there's so many things that go into that you need to be aware of. So make sure to go slow and steady, move at a decent pace, don't go too fast, because then you're just gonna not know what's happening and you're gonna get mad. Most likely, I mean, I would get mad. I get mad all the time, but you have to be careful to just not throw yourself into the lion's den, because then you're not gonna want to play it. But it's not so much that you're bad, it's that you didn't even have a chance to learn it because you jumped so fast to the tech tree. All right, so the next tip, the sixth one, is that you need to be careful about paying attention to a more fighter run BR and a quote-unquote support type run, like a ground, like strike aircraft and bombers, because there are certain planes Yak 28B that, yes, they are not bad, but they are not put at a BR to where they can thrive. Because once you get to a certain BR, having a strike aircraft or a bomber it's not gonna work for you at all. It's like bringing a heavy tank up to 9.7. Heavy tanks are obsolete, which is why everything's MBTs. Heavy tanks don't exist anymore for a reason. So if you're going to play a bomber, again, I'll use a Yak 28 for example, that thing faces a lot of fighters that run that BR. So once you get to certain BRs, strike aircraft don't work, neither do bombers, because fighter aircraft are doing your job twice as good. They're gonna make the base before you, they're gonna hit more bases than you, and they're gonna do your entire job before you can even make it to the match. Or even worse, you make it and drop your bomb, and then some random fighter aircraft comes with napalm and blows it up anyways. So really pay attention to these things, because again, at certain BRs, there's no reason to play a strike aircraft or a bomber. Some of them do get missiles, so if you can try to get a strike aircraft and use it more as a fighter, I would suggest that, because at certain BRs, there's just no reason to try to ground pound at the start or to try to get bases, because the fighter aircraft do that anyways. I would suggest bringing a loadout, a backup one in case there's one plane left or something like that, to where you can ground pound or hit bases. But off rip, usually the fighter aircraft just load their freaking planes up with napalm and get all the bases anyways. So just make sure to pay attention to if you're at a BR where fighter jets really run everything, or you can actually play your bomber or strike aircraft and do your job accordingly. Now, the next tip that we're going to talk about is you have to pay attention to what BR you are in, whether that is a up tier or a down tier. Now, unfortunately, you don't get the same privilege, for lack of better terms, that ground players get. When you spawn in, you can see how much it costs to spawn in, because it's a flat there's not even a spawn point system in air, because you get one plane, that's it. The only way you will know if you are in a up tier or a down tier is if you learn the vehicles. So I highly suggest you learn vehicles by playing other nations or just getting good at memorizing them, because that's the only way you're going to know if you're in an up tier or a down tier. And then once you know that, you have a better scope of what you're facing off against, because at certain BRs, a full up tier means you're facing things that have radar missiles or all aspect missiles, and guess what? You don't have countermeasures. So that's something something that you need to be aware of, because if you get a down tier, now maybe you're the one that has missiles and other planes don't have countermeasures. So you have to pay attention to that, because that can be a huge difference in how you will play the match. If you know, okay, I'm in a full up tier, there's gonna be this plane, this plane, this plane, they could be having this loadout, this loadout, this loadout. So that'll affect not only you, but your squad's gameplay and how you should approach the battle. Because if you don't know, which of course you may start off not knowing what vehicles are what, which that takes time, and you know, it's okay for everybody. But if you don't know, then you're going in blindly, and you may feed right into how an enemy would want you to play, because you didn't know that they had a radar missile, or you didn't know that that was a front locking all aspect missile. So that's things that you have to be aware of, and that will only come with time. So don't stress yourself out about it, but make sure that you can do the best you can by learning the plane's BRs and what their loadouts are vaguely, because again, you're not going to know, oh, I'm in an 8-7 game, that means this plane's going to have this, 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 and this, but you will have a better idea of what they could have, so you can play more smart and more cautiously. More smart doesn't make okay. All right, and the last tip that I'm going to talk about is that you need to pay attention to the nations that you're playing at the BRs that you are playing, because there are certain planes at certain BRs for certain nations that run that BR. So not only could you run into one nation that has a super strong plane at a certain BR, but you could run into two nations that have a super strong plane at a certain BR, or even multiple nations. So you need to make sure to pay attention to what BR you are at, but more importantly, pay attention to the nations you are facing and the ones you have on your team. Because if a certain plane's on your team, you could try to help them, you know, get the best out of their plane. You could also make sure that they could help you get the best out of yours. Just try to learn what nations are strong at what BRs, so that way you can figure out how you want to play and what you don't want to play against. Because there are certain planes that I'm telling you, Prague can say it, Metals can say it, Crunchy could say it. You see it in the game and you're like, GG's. It's over. I can't do nothing to that. So you need to be very, very, very careful and attentive to, I don't even know if attentive is the right word, but be very, my brain is broke. Just pay attention. Just pay attention to every start of the match. I usually, the first thing I do is look at my leaderboard, see what nations we're facing, look at the planes on my team, try to determine the BR the best I can. That way we can start guessing what the enemy has. So that way we can try to make a game plan on how we're going to approach the match. Because that'll make all the difference if you attempt to have some sort of, you know, plan, some sort of whatever. So that way you can not walk in blindly. Because again, you can make a plan and it be completely wrong. You know what I mean? But it's better to try to have a grasp on what you're walking into. So that way, if you're right, not only can you perform very good, but if you're wrong, you can try to sit there and be like, all right, this was not right, let's fix it here, see what we gotta do here, 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 and here. So just always pay attention to your nations on your team, the enemy's nations, and again, the BRs on your team. You can only see the planes on your team, just same as ground. You'll see all the planes and you can determine their BR from that, because again, you don't get the privilege that ground players do where it tells them how much spawn points they have and you can make a determination that way. So just pay attention to the pretty flags at the top and what's on your team and you'll be good. All right, and I'm gonna go ahead and take this time right now to have an honorable mention for one last thing that I think everyone needs to know when playing air, especially at maybe the higher BRs, not too high, but kind of like not early just, but like a little bit later, maybe at like 9-3-ish area, maybe a little bit higher, I don't know. But if you know, you know. If you bring napalm in a fighter jet and bomb the base that I pinged at the start of the match in my bomber or strike aircraft, I'ma freaking come to your house and I'ma... Alright everyone, so we have made it to the end of another video. I will go ahead and say, I'm mainly a ground player, so if I kind of misspoke in some spots or left out some big things that you guys think, like, what? How could that have not made it into the video? Please drop them down in the comments. As always, more knowledge is more power. But I play air a decent amount, but obviously, I mean, if anyone watches the content that I produce and, you know, we stream, I always am playing ground. I mainly only play air for the events or if I need a vehicle for my lineup. So again, I definitely probably misspoke in the video or missed out on some big things. So if there's anything you guys think should have been in there, please drop a comment down below so other people can come behind you and get some more knowledge from the video. Hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope it helps. I really did the best I could with the points, so I don't know. I feel like I definitely tried. Okay, I'm just yapping at this point. The melatonin is melatoning. But I really hope y'all enjoyed. I hope y'all have a blessed day. Much love to each one of y'all. Thank you again for 1,000 views on the last video. It means the world. I don't always expect the videos to do that good, and recently they have been doing very good, so thank you guys really from the bottom of my heart. I know I say every video, but it really means the world to not only this community, but me as well. When you guys show love and support, this channel is on its way to 1,000 subscribers, so when we hit 1,000, I'll definitely have to do a special little Q&A video or something like that. But hope y'all enjoyed. Have a blessed one. See you on the next one. Peace!